has proven himself at Alabama from a numbers standpoint. And then even yesterday throughout Pro Day was having a great time with his guys. You see him fist bumping scouts, and he's a ready-made leader. I'm looking forward to see who ends up picking him up.
Alyssa Lang from the SEC Network at LSU's Pro Day today, so that should be interesting to watch. Thank you so much for getting up with us here. Meanwhile, Matt and Des, I got something for you. Let's go either or with some of the players who will be drafted in round one. Starting with you, Des. Who would you rather have, Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase?
I tell you what, I love Jamar Chase. I thought he was fantastic 2 years ago when he played, but man, this Kyle Pitts, he's just such an irregular talent. Like, this guy is a guy who, he doesn't come around often. He's such a freak athlete at the tight end position. He's completely a wideout in the tight end's body. Great routes, excellent hands. He doesn't catch the ball. He plucks it out of the air. I would have to go with Kyle Pitts.
And how about the two Alabama guys, Jalen Waddle or Devontae Smith? Des, which one you got?
Greeny, you know I got to roll with my Heisman fraternity brother, Devontae Smith, a.k.a. the Slim Reaper. I mean, he just had a phenomenal season. He can do it all. Both guys, they have like some issues as far as their size because Devontae's only 172 soaking wet, and obviously Jalen Waddle is shorter than 6 feet. But my man Devontae Smith, he's a gamer, he's a playmaker. I got to go with the Slim Reaper.
And then the quarterback, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, who you got?
I like Zach Wilson, man. I just love everything that he brings to the team, to the offense. You know, he's a player who plays with an edge. You can tell he's out there to prove all the doubters wrong. He can make all the throws. He has great talent. He can run, but he doesn't want to run. He runs to extend plays, looking down the field all the time. I think I would have to go with Zach Wilson, though, you know, you can't go wrong with Justin Fields after his pro day yesterday. He's a phenomenal talent, too.
Look, Mel and McShay have both told us they expect quarterbacks to go 1, 2, 3, and 4 in this draft, and then who knows, 5 is going to go pretty quickly as well. So what we're doing is splitting hairs between these guys. They're all going to go in the first half of the first round of the NFL draft. That shows you what the NFL think of them. Meanwhile, we got another game to play here with Des and Matt this time. I was bringing him into it. Matt, if we look at these quarterbacks, tell me the one that you could see wind up turning out to be the Mitchell Trubisky, the biggest risk, if you will, of it going wrong for the young player in this draft.
I feel bad for doing this to you, Greeny, but I think it is Zach Wilson. And it's not just because he's most likely going to the New York Jets, but if you had bet on the New York Jets first-round picks busting over the last 20 years, you'd be a very rich man right now. It just hasn't worked out for them. So Zach Wilson, also, we have to worry about the one-year wonder. I'm with this. Watching him play, he's the most fun quarterback to watch in the 2021 draft class, without a doubt. But it is 1 year of production against bad teams. You go back to 2019, against Utah, wasn't pretty. Against Washington, wasn't pretty. So we're really looking at a guy a lot like Mitchell Trubisky who had that one great year. And we're hoping that you can catch that lightning in a bottle and say he's only going to get better with NFL coaching. We put some NFL wide receivers around him. But if he goes to a team like the Jets, or you could even say to other teams like the Falcons, where he might have to develop a little bit more, I think that there is that boom or bust nature to Zach Wilson's game.
Okay, it's worth keeping a close eye on. The next one, Desmond, is for you. Just a few years ago, there were 5 quarterbacks that went in round 1, and Lamar Jackson was the last of those, and a year later, he was the MVP of the league. So who could be this year's Lamar Jackson?
I will have to look at Trey Lance, and I'm not saying a year later he's going to be the MVP of the league, but I just think that his upside is tremendous. I mean, he's a guy who reminds me of Donovan McNabb. You know, he can throw inside the pocket, outside the pocket. He's a big quarterback. He's always a threat to run. And don't forget, coming out of high school, no one really wanted to give him a chance to play quarterback, but he stuck to his guns. He wanted to be a quarterback. Now he's put himself in a position to be a top draft pick, a first-day draft pick, and I still think he plays with that chip on his shoulder with a lot to prove. So I think it could be Trey Lance.
That's an interesting one. And look, if San Francisco takes him at 3, I don't think it will stun anybody. Meanwhile, Matt, last one is for you here. Jordan Love was the quarterback who got drafted in the first round last year, and we have not seen him since. Who do you think could be this year's Jordan Love?
Yeah, it's tough because we're not going to see anyone fall to pick number 26 overall like Jordan Love did, or 32 like Lamar Jackson did. So, you know, I would say whoever goes to Atlanta could be that quarterback who's drafted, and then we kind of forget about it. I know you guys were talking earlier about Aaron Rodgers' contract. What that means for Jordan Love will be interesting. But Matt Ryan is under contract for 2 more years after the restructure that he just recently did. So whether it's Trey Lance or Justin Fields, I think those are probably 2 of the favorites right now to go number 4 to the Atlanta Falcons. we may not see them play for half of their rookie deal, which makes it a very, very interesting situation for Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot and that new regime down in Atlanta.
Yeah, it sort of flies in the face of what most people seem to think is the most valuable thing about drafting a quarterback these days, which is getting a lot out.
Greeny, when you're the reigning national champions, you're allowed to have 2 pro days, right? I mean, this was always in the plan, and the players said it was a great situation for them to be in this season, certainly not having an NFL combine. If they didn't like what they did last week, they had yesterday to go out and do it again. And you saw Mac Jones throw the majority of his passes yesterday, and there were 2 things that he wanted to show off. Arm strength and creativity were some of the more specific things. Starting with creativity, you actually saw him end the throwing session on a trick play where he pitched the ball to Najee Harris and then turned around and caught a touchdown pass in the end zone. So he wanted to show off the fact that 1, I'm not a statue, and 2, I can do whatever an NFL team wants me to do. I can be mobile. He did reference, hey, when I was at Alabama, they asked me to work the pocket and rip it. That's what I did, but that's not all I can do. Something else he wanted to show off was the arm strength. I wouldn't say demonstrate that because we knew he had the arm strength throughout last season. But one of my favorite notes from yesterday was the fact that one of his favorite targets from last season, Devontae Smith, actually participated in the workout for Mac Jones. Devontae Smith didn't do a workout of his own, didn't go through any individual drills, merely came to support Mac Jones to make him look good. And I think that says a lot about not only Mac, but Devontae Smith as a teammate as well.
No question. And we saw Najee Harris wanting to be there with them last week. I mean, the close-knit nature of that team is extremely, it's sort of gratifying to witness from a distance. But now let's talk turkey here. All right. So, Mac Jones, before the season began, no one was talking about him anywhere near the first round. Then the season ended and people were talking about him mid to late first round. And now all of a sudden, San Francisco has traded up to 3 and half the world thinks that's who they're going to get. Does this make sense to you?
It does, because Kyle Shanahan is going to get what Kyle Shanahan wants. And we've seen this before. No one was talking about Joe Burrow. He ended up being the first pick overall. No one was talking about Kyler Murray, who wasn't good at Texas A&M. He was the first pick overall. So we've seen this play out before where you can really catch lightning in a bottle and have that ascension to being a very high pick. Now, I think the biggest question is, as Alyssa noted, yes, he showed off the arm strength, but it's still an arm that is below what we're seeing from Justin Fields and Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. It's still mobility, while good enough, that is below Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. So I think the question will be for Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, do they want someone like Mac Jones who's going to process his reads quickly? He's very accurate. He throws a good deep ball. Or do they want to evolve this scheme and get away from the Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins mold and go with more of a modern element with 4.44 speed for Justin Fields like we talked about before, or someone who's more of a well-rounded athlete like Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State?
So, Des, give us a preview here. You'll be on ABC the night of the first round of the draft. And if Roger Goodell says the words, with the 3rd pick in the 2021 NFL draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Mac Jones, quarterback Alabama, what will you say?
I'm going to say, well, everybody, I understand this pick because at this point, it's all about who you think fits best with your system. If you have Kyle Shanahan and he's falling in love with Mac Jones and he's looking for a guy who needs to process information quickly, get the ball out of his hand fast and accurately, and that's what he needs to run his system, then this is the perfect guy. So it's not about being the 3rd best player in the draft. It's being the player that this team needs, that this coach falls in love with, that he believes can run his system the best, and that's why the 49ers picked Mac Jones, everybody.
And so that's going to be very interesting there if it happens. And so, Alyssa, let me come back to you. Is there any way, if you're around these people all the time, is there any way of gleaning what they expect? If you see Saban there hanging out with all his buddies, he's got Shanahan on one side and he's got Bill on the other side. He's just receiving them, which is amusing to watch from a distance. But do you have any way of gleaning a sense of what they expect to happen for Mac Jones?
You know, from a bird's eye view, it is funny, like you said, to watch Saban work those relationships. We know that he knows the NFL head coaches really well. You know, I don't think anybody, maybe even Mac Jones, has an idea of who might end up picking him. But I know we talked about this last week. I said this throughout the entire pre-draft process, not only based on what we've seen from Pro Day, but based on what we've seen from Mac Jones ever since the end of the 2020 season. I wouldn't be surprised if any of the 32 teams fell in love with Mac Jones and what he brings to the table based on what Des and Matt just said. I mean, he's a quarterback that has proven himself at Alabama from a numbers standpoint.